Picture this. You're a German soldier in 1944. Through your binoculars, you see rows of American tanks rolling across open fields. You hear engines rumbling, trucks moving, men shouting. You report it. An entire US division is advancing. But here's the catch. Those tanks are made of rubber. The engines? Just sound effects blasting from speakers hidden in the trees. The soldiers? Nowhere to be found. You've just been fooled by one of the strangest and most secretive units in US history. The Ghost Army, and their mission wasn't to fight, it was to deceive. The Ghost Army, officially known as the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, wasn't made up of ordinary soldiers. It was built from artists, fashion designers, theater set builders, sound engineers, even a few guys who would later become famous painters. It was, in many ways, a moving art project disguised as a combat unit. Their mission was simple but bizarre: create the illusion of an entire army where none existed. To do that, they had four main tricks. First, inflatable tanks. These were life-size rubber Shermans that could be inflated in under an hour. From the air or through binoculars, they looked completely real. The soldiers even painted shadows under them and drove bulldozers in circles to fake tank tracks. Second, fake artillery and trucks. They built dummy jeeps and positioned fake cannons made from wood and canvas. At night, they used special lighting to make them cast convincing shadows, so German scouts would report entire battalions that didn't exist. Third, sound warfare. Engineers recorded trucks, tanks, and soldiers marching, then blasted those sounds from giant speakers. A single truck with a sound system could make it seem like a whole division was moving through the woods. Sometimes the noise was so loud it carried 15 miles away. And finally, radio deception. Skilled operators mimicked the chatter of real divisions. They copied call signs, traffic patterns, even the style of other radio men. To the Germans listening, it sounded like the US Army was constantly on the move. Put all of this together, and you had a force that could appear, disappear, and reappear somewhere else, all without firing a single shot. It wasn't just clever, it was psychological warfare on a massive scale. One of their most daring deceptions came right after D-Day in 1944. The Allies had just landed in France, and German forces were scrambling to figure out where the next big push would come from. That's where the Ghost Army rolled in. They set up outside a French village with nothing but inflatable tanks and a few trucks. Within hours, what looked like a full US armored division was camped across the fields. Soldiers painted fake tire tracks in the dirt to make it seem like heavy vehicles had rolled through. Others set up dummy artillery positions with wooden guns aimed at the horizon. At night, the sound engineers cranked up their speakers. The countryside echoed with engines, clanking metal, and shouted orders. An entire army on the move, but completely invisible. Meanwhile, the radio team sent out fake transmissions about supply shortages, troop movements, and strategy chatter. German scouts reported everything back: tanks, artillery, radio traffic, noise. It was perfect. The enemy believed thousands of men were dug in, and they shifted their real forces to meet the threat. But in reality, the Ghost Army had only a few hundred men, and when the Germans moved, the actual US divisions attacked somewhere else. The Ghost Army wasn't just a sideshow, their illusions changed the course of battles. One of their most famous operations took place in 1945, as the Allies prepared to cross the Rhine River into Germany. This was one of the final hurdles of the war, and the Germans knew it. If they could stop the crossing, they might stall the Allied advance. So the Ghost Army created a diversion. They staged a massive fake buildup miles away from the real crossing point. Inflatable tanks lined the riverbank. Loudspeakers blasted the sound of construction as if engineers were building floating bridges. Radio chatter made it seem like the entire US 30th Infantry Division was preparing to cross. German forces shifted their defenses to meet this phantom army, leaving the real crossing site lightly guarded. When the Allies made their move, they crossed the Rhine with far less resistance, thanks to rubber tanks and recorded sound effects. By the end of the war, the Ghost Army had staged more than 20 full-scale deceptions. And military historians believe their work saved tens of thousands of lives. The strangest part? Almost no one knew the Ghost Army even existed. Their missions were classified for decades. The men who pulled off these illusions went home after the war and never spoke a word, not even to their families. Some became famous later without anyone realizing their secret past. Fashion designer Bill Blass, painter Ellsworth Kelly, and many other artists had once been soldiers of deception. It wasn't until the 1990s that their story began to surface, and only in recent years has the US government officially recognized them with honors. Military analysts now study their work as an early form of psychological warfare, a mix of art, theater, and strategy that saved countless lives. But here's the real twist. The Ghost Army didn't just vanish when the war ended. Many of their ideas, fake radio traffic, sound deception, inflatable decoys, are still being used in modern warfare today. And the question is just how much of what we see on today's battlefields is real and how much is illusion. So next time you hear about tanks rolling across a battlefield or armies shifting in the night, remember the Ghost Army, a unit of artists, sound engineers, and set designers once fooled the most powerful military in the world without firing a single shot. And here's the chilling part. If an army made of balloons and speakers could fool soldiers in 1944, imagine what modern technology, drones, AI, digital deception could do today. Are we really seeing what's real, or are we just witnessing the next generation of ghost armies in action?